1919, and the peacemakers still at it. The newly established Brussels-Paris air service takes Belgian and other delegates to and fro from their various committee meetings. It was to be hoped that their peacemaking was as broad in outlook as their air-mindedness. What a long and tedious business it was. Once in a while they'd break off conferring and discussing for a breath of air or to have their pictures taken. Look, there's Queen Marie of Rumania, together with King Albert of the Belgians. Smile for the press, Your Majesties. And who's there? How's Europe coming along, Marshal Foch? Oh, très bien. All secret as yet, but très, très bien. British, French, American, Belgian. But where were the Russians? Shh, you mustn't even mention the Russians. No seat at Versailles for Trotsky or the other leaders struggling to fight off the enemies of Bolshevism without, and at the same time hold together the new state within. A superhuman task in 1919. For revolution, together with the effects of a terrible war, had proved too much for a semi-primitive society. Russia was starving. The new state was being weaned in an agony of suffering for untold millions. But, starving or not, to the outside world, those peasants were politically the Reds, mad anarchists who'd murdered the Tsar and thrown over all the rules of decent, accepted society. In fact, the Soviet Union held all kinds, from European Christian to Eskimo and Buddhist Mongol, most of whom had probably never heard of the Tsar. White, brown, yellow, all colors in fact, except, oddly enough, red. But whoever they were in dire straits. The struggle to restore the old regime was petering out. Though many Russian warships were in anti-Bolshevik hands, yet the expeditionary forces fighting to put back a more respectable regime in Russia were giving up and going home, including the Americans. With typical American humanitarianism, once the idea of overthrowing the new state was abandoned, the United States put out a helping hand. The Russians were human beings, though many didn't think so, and they were starving. 1919 saw shipload after shipload of American foodstuffs landed in Russian ports for distribution among the starving millions. A gesture to the East from the despised capitalists of the West that wasn't likely to win much of a place in the history books of the new state. Back to more accepted society. At Royal Ascot in 1919, you simply wouldn't have known there'd just been a war on. Though Britain was still half in and half out of khaki, the organizers of the social calendar lost little time. Pre-war Britain was back, to outward appearance anyway. To the ordinary millions, the hot summer of 1919 was a chance to enjoy their first real holiday since that equally hot August of 1914, when all the horror had started. So there, on the beaches, the first real crowds, the first sandcastles, the first Punch and Judy shows since the assassination of an archduke at Sarajevo. And because it was the first for so long, you enjoyed everything the more. As for the bathers, well, some of us remembered what we'd called ladies back in 1914. These females looked and behaved very differently. Making shells and running the home front had changed them out of all recognition. But what of it? After all, they had in their own way won a war. So after 4 years of battle, it was piers and concert parties and what the butler saw all over again, and thank heaven for it. And astonished children discovered for the first time that fish weren't just things to be queued for off a slab, but live creatures that actually came out of the sea.